Welcome to Tidbit Talkin. This is a series that consists of spewing out assorted thoughts which arose from somebody who thinks too much, taking in, and generally loving entertainment media by the boatload. These tidbits may be mini theories, observations, or simply jokes. Hopefully people will find them entertaining or at least interesting. And who knows, maybe they'll inspire others to look at what amuses them in different ways than before. Also bear in mind that everything blabbed about in these videos are from the perspective of somebody who's experienced every main story bit connected with whatever works currently being gone over. So spoilers are a definite. However, other works set in a shared continuity will typically solely be referenced in a way that only makes sense to anybody who's also fully experienced those ones up until their same time occurring points. Sort of a coded nod kind of deal. So, while things will be more fun for viewers who indulge with an entire universe's works, nobody who has yet to do so will get non-experienced events spoiled. Now, with all of that out of the way, here we go. Those smoky, fun junk stuffed orbs some Wind Waker enemies leave behind may be utilized by practically everyone throughout the Zelda series to store all those items that seemingly come out of thin air. This inventory spell looks to have been in use since civilization-forming capable beings have been present in the world of Link and friends. Its strength would of course fluctuate alongside the magical might possessed by planet Hyrule host's inhabitants, hence why some corrupt creature-crushing crusades contain things like heroes hoarding only 50 arrows at best being bundled inside an excruciatingly engineered quiver, while other evil-thwarting journeys involve their champions holding nigh 1,000 pointy flying deathbringers without any specialty storage items on hand. Specialized tool totes may be necessary at times because some Triforce World residents, heroic or otherwise, simply aren't adept enough at stock spell slinging, regardless of genetics granted paranormal power level, to accurately pull tiny trinkets out of their private pocket dimension individually. Perhaps perfectly precise possession pulling proves possible for some sound-sensitive swordsmen because they're able to will more space between their junk in these merchandise-maintaining misty masses. Anyway, the vaporous valuables vault's visibility, being exclusive to Wind Waker, may very well be because they typically get destroyed alongside their users as a result of general fragility that's somehow negated this time around. Maybe somebody with great magical power, who is intent on preserving all the artifacts located beneath Wind Waker's ocean, casts some kind of durability spell on everyone's mystical pockets. Double defense and invincibility magic does exist in various forms across several Zelda games after all, even large geographical influence having ones, like Big Beastly Boss Brought, Butler Back, Bloodline Bearing, Building, Blocking Barriers. Plus, there are other instances of obvious overwhelming oddities on display throughout the terrible toll-taking, trial-tackling, horrific tunic-tuck traveler trips, like Curse's completely chilling countrysides. It doesn't seem so far-fetched an idea that at least one random person developed some sort of wide-range area of effect extreme inventory sturdiness applying incantation or whatever in order to make salvaging a more appealing career option. This simple sorcery-supplied storage sphere sporting scenario also comes with a nice bonus of giving the various vendors present throughout these games good reason to carry grass-colored potions that restore magical power, as it doesn't seem like many folks own invisibility-granting capes, weather-altering medallions, or any other particularly flashy supernatural artifacts. Citizens who aren't royal family members or legendary heroes probably just spend months going through their wizardry fuel because unseen goods stashing takes so little of it. The links in games without magic meters would face similar slowly sap spell strength situations, only with a minutely greater amount of drain due to things like bladed top vehicles or many tempest-generating bases making faint, fantastic fuel withdrawals. Also, certain sword-swirling skills might go from occasionally mana draining to completely mundane because the first scenario is using great magical power by letting Link's body get possessed by certain supernatural forces for a demonstration of what he could master on his own. Anyhow, in summary, certain things would of course require much less witchcraft juice than utilizing a holy light encapsulated arrow or invincibility diamond because they are altering the immediate surroundings natural order relatively little in comparison. Lime-looking liquids aren't visible on shop shelves during Scene Sorcery Stats starved, cosmically chosen champions calamity-crushing campaigns because they're kept below or behind the counters due to a lack of people needing more refills than average. Merchants could know when somebody metaphysically lacking was in the vicinity because sensing magical strength is possible, as demonstrated by great fairies deducing whether or not their visitors possess higher than average levels of mystic muscle. Given that mortals teleport with musical instruments at times, it doesn't seem so unreasonable that anybody can learn how to feel out how much ethereal energy someone or thing possesses. And why wouldn't shopkeepers teach themselves a skill that could make transactions smoother? Such things are good for business images after all. Certain magical items likely only truly take effect when on the normal dimensional plane, and possibly solely when in direct physical contact with the user, such as Skyward Sword's medals or Ages and Seasons rings. Hence why much more limited conventional physical storage options like pouches and boxes are important at times, despite bottomless, usually invisible suitcases being a thing. In a similar vein, rupee wallets contain an entirely separate pocket dimension that functions more or less identically to the aforementioned smoky storage spheres, with the only difference being that they are designed in such a way that their contents are much more apparent to any observers. This was of course done so the various merchants of Zelda's world would know who to push into buying a 500 rupee paperweight or whatever. Bottles may not be utilized in particularly large quantities by most tunic treasuring cup travelers because their subpar skill level with regard to removing items from gear guarding gas globes brings forth worries of content spilling related mishaps. Nobody wants a giant ghost leaking out onto their magic beans after all. Heart containers and pieces that are just lying around crazy places, like behind random bush tree deals or waterfalls near cow-loving warrior women, could be generated by unconscious magical power usage that reflects a great physical accomplishment. That is, instead of people just slowly accruing greater levels of physical and mental prowess by balancing effort-requiring tasks with efficient rest, they also mystically manifest a tangible object which improves their power on the spot upon going through with especially exceptional exploits. Said solid strain supplying supreme scrolls would be known about on an instinctive level by the magically adept populace needing to attempt them for physical self-improvement's sake. Hence why vitality volume vulcanizing valuable visibility exists before their completion. Nobody else is able to come and grab these innate impressiveness improving icons if their originators neglect grabbing them upon completing a lump pride providing power pushing path because the things are only compatible with those who willed them into existence. That empowerment emblem effect or exclusivity would be due to the awesomeness advancing artifacts activation abilities being tailored towards an individual's mind and soul rather than general physiology. Related, the health helping happy heaps handed out by citizens aided by sidetrack saviors or those given out as amusing activity awards are possibly products of excitement energized enchantment. These awe-activated attribute amplifiers aren't able to be utilized by their manufacturers because they are created with a source of whoa that was really cool related feelings in mind. Thus, prowess-pumping prizes can typically only be won once per player, as the impressiveness is expected enough to prevent fight-fueling fantastic formation from happening again. In the cases where life-lengthening loot is shown before an amusement and agitation-arranging action array even begins, there happens to be a veteran shopkeeper running things. One who's familiar enough with will-wrought wonderment to recognize when somebody can cause capability catapulting cosmic craft construction, thus a rosy reinforcing relic replica gets shown in advance for customer enticement's sake. Perhaps with enough discipline and training, an individual could hone this automated aptitude advancement arrangement into some kind of controlled variant that creates generic magical power clusters, which are able to be converted later on into one's most desired growth-granting gadgetry via other supernatural hijinks after enough have been collected. The low life warning sound could be a representation of hectic heart-having hubbub hurting Hylians here when their lives are in danger and the resulting ear pain that follows. On a nicer noise note, puzzle solve chimes, basic bounty beeps, and new item obtained fanfares would likewise be compositions created to stand in for the pleasantness felt by grandiose ear-packing humanoids who just heard helpfulness happen. They'd of course recognize an ordinary human ear indistinguishable thump or whatever occurring really far away in a dangerous location as pleasant because their innate magical power also lets them sense when change is actually good. Hyrule has shown up with a vastly varying geographical layout throughout each game in the Legend of Zelda series. This, of course, is done to keep things fresh for players and developers alike with each successive iteration. However, it's possible to explain away this shifting soil stack shape as something that occurs in-universe and is relatively mundane. as there are a few geographical consistencies capable of painting province plot placement proving pictures. Particular peaks perfectly pop up during every Hyrule home hefty heinousness hunt, and each appearance arguably advertises an actual fixed location despite shown map layout related things, suggesting there's an amount of landmark wandering going on that matches everywhere else. Even though the volcano-centered fatality-endorsing mountain range seemingly sits somewhere completely different on each map, geographic characteristics so distinct that they suggest perspective-related trickery isn't afoot never appear, and there's practically always enough dry land around said supposedly slain slopes that Triforce country's populace could simply just move their homes around it when necessary. The only time there doesn't appear to be sufficient structure supporting soil surrounding parish peaks is during those quad-bladed games, and their maps don't exactly look like they're intended to be true topography telling treasure tracing tubes, but rather just artsy general representations of what areas players must traverse throughout each split self-stuffed saga. Anyway, even without the occasional threat of demon-delivered destruction being a worry for Hyrule citizens, there's an incredibly high chance that disaster force relocation isn't so uncommon for them, as it seems like Casualty Cliff could easily wipe society out by erupting with enough force. Endings are a pain, but all of you are fantastic. See ya!